I'm Neville Marten from Guitarist magazine.
And I'm Richard Barrett.
And we're here today to talk about some Laney Lionheart T20 amps. There's a combo here, 112 combo here, and a 212 cabinet with head. Exactly the same amps in each. We like them a lot already, don't we?
Yep, yeah, fire them up, and you know, when you try an amp out for the first time, and apart from the volume, I'll put things around about 12 o'clock and go from there, really. And sometimes you think, well, I don't really need to change it. Yeah. I think I might have added a little bit of mids.
Yeah. Yeah, I turned them on, I turned mine on from, it was reviewed in Guitarist, and I think they're exactly the same settings that Nick Guppy from Guitarist reviewed them with, and they were perfect. I didn't need to do a thing.
Yeah, it sounds great with that guitar as well.
You know, I mean, from the off, that you can't find a bad tone on it, really. It's down to, I mean, I'm using a telly, Richard's using the humbucking nags. Yeah,
exactly. Humbucking, I think I probably mentioned before, they're vintage output, so I'm probably not kicking up much more than the telly. It just will sound a bit different. It's about 8.5K or something.
Yeah, but they work really nicely together.
Yeah.
Okay, well, they are 20 watts. As I say, this one's a 1x12 combo. They're Celestion speakers, aren't they?
Yeah, Celestion G12s.
Yeah, which is the classic Celestion speaker. They're very simple. The layout's really simple. The whole point of the Lionheart from when they were first designed was to be a simple amplifier that you just got on with.
Yeah, well, they've trodden a very good line, I think, because though it is simple, you've got the shared EQ, but you've got the bright switch on the clean channel.
Yep. Yeah.
And I personally really like the tone control.
Yeah, tell us about that.
Well, the way that I'm viewing it is a little bit different from a Presence, which I suppose is like a master tone control, isn't it? And I haven't been able to find Laney saying anything specific about this online, but the way that it works to shape the overall tone of the amp I really like, because chances are, you know how controls are interactive as well, and I find it's a bit of a nightmare if you go into a venue where for some reason it's all a bit bright, lots of hard surfaces. I don't know, the controls interact on an amp, and if I suddenly start rolling off a lot of top or whatever, then it's going to start sounding boxy, and that's going to bring problems of its own.
Exactly.
Whereas with the tone control, I find I can just leave that.
Yeah. Well, let's do a sweep. Let's do a sweep of the sounds here.
Yeah.
I've got the telly on the. There's a bit of buzz because we're very close to the amps.
Yes, yeah.
I've got a single coil guitar, and even Richard's will as well, because we're just the proximity of these great big transformers, them being valve amps. So, I'm currently on 4 on the tone switch. That's a very sweet, mellifluous sound, isn't it?
Yes, yeah.
I'll knock that back to 0. A little bit mellower.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll put it up to 10.
That's where I've ended up. Where are you there? About 3 or 4?
4-ish, yeah.
And I'm finding that I like it somewhere there.
Yeah.
It's a little bit different for me because I have a closed back cab.
Yes.
And I'm obviously sat behind it because we wanted it to look reasonable in the shot. So I'm hearing less of the brightness, but I found I'm on the dirty channel. I've got the EQ set all about halfway with slightly more mids. And I've got the drive set straight up at 12 o'clock as well. So with the guitar on about halfway. So if I take the tone off, and then I'll bring it all the way up to halfway, say. And this will probably be a bit hard, but this is right up. So okay, I mean, it's good that it can go there.
Yeah.
But I just find it very predictable, and it does what I hope it would do. It seems to really nail that, as does the mid-range, which, well, I may as well have a look at that now. I know I've started going on about it. So I mean, these are EL84,
Yeah.
aren't they? So these are Class A,
Yeah.
and that brings its own kind of characteristic, but there's nothing, you know, the low mids are quite neat and tidy, aren't they? And it's just this sort of punchy, and so anyway, let's... That's the dirty channel, you know, it's not massively high gain, but I've only got the gain about halfway up, so I'll take the mid all the way up so you can really hear what frequency it's working at. The difficulty I always find is once you start sweeping around with mids, in the end, none of it sounds good. It's like you have to acclimatise.
From where I'm sitting, because I'm getting a bit more of the cab, you can hear the sweep.
I like the frequency it's voiced at though. And then off. I mean, it's not really designed for that kind of metal riffage. I suppose you could argue that Black Sabbath have a bit of a history with Laney's, though.
Yeah. Yes, yeah, they did. So and Tony Iommi does tend to go for a softish rock sound, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I can see the attraction of that for certain things. And like we were saying earlier, that's quite an extreme setting, but it's still a usable
Well,
one.
we've said before, if you were in the studio and you were trying to find, say, a rhythm sound that you want it to be there but not sticking out too much, that's the kind of sound. It's often nice to find a soft rock sound that you can just insinuate into a track, and it does something.
I mean, I'm become keener on certain mid frequencies as time has gone on, but I think to automatically whack up the mids and say that's where the heart of all great sounds is, and it's suddenly fighting with the vocal and the snare.
Exactly, exactly every time. Well, I'll go on to mine. I'm on the clean channel with the telly here. And I've got the treble is on 4, the middle is on about 6.5, and the bass is on about 5.
Right.
So if I
Is that with the bright switch on, out of interest?
The bright switch, I'll put that back to kind of where I had it before. What's about, where, put that about halfway up. The bright switch, that's with the bright switch off. Just brings some life to it, doesn't it?
I can see that would be very useful if you want a nice, detailed, clean sound, but you don't want all. But you're not stuck with that on the dirty channel. Then.
No, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, my middle is on about 6. So. The bass is on about 5, so back to 0. As Richard said before, their controls are interactive, so you find a nice, when one boosts it pulls back from the other, etc.
Yeah.
But that's a really nice thing to find. But what's nice about this, and lots of valve amps actually that we've tried, is that even with all of those controls on extreme settings, it's not an awful sound. No. Even though you wouldn't maybe have it at that extreme, it's a usable sound.
Yes, absolutely, and that's not a kind of free pass to use an inappropriate sound, but it's not completely usable.
Yeah.
I'm quite interested to hear, I did set up the clean tone on this, and I'm just wondering if I just click onto there and hear with the... I've got the bright switch on because I presumed that with the humbuckers I'm going to want that, but... I mean, that's quite loud actually, but that's still only on about 2. I'm frowning at it so I can see it from this distance. I'm at a funny angle. And with the bright off, I'm guessing that the headroom might come up a little bit. But it seems like it's got plenty.
Bear in mind these are 20 watt amps, 20 valve watts, which is you know, a slightly different thing. Yeah, so the drive channel and the clean channel are more or less the same volume wise, and the amount of drive. Well, in fact, I'll change to the drive channel. So I'm now on the drive channel. Here's what I've got at the moment with the telly. That's with the drive itself, excuse the hum, at about 6.
Interesting that, actually. Yeah. They're not marketed, I don't think, as high gain amps, but that's not... it's no slouch. You've got me curious
and
now.
This is a telly. It's, you know, it's not the most powerful guitar in the world.
I've just maxed my drive out.
Okay.
I'm feeling a bit of squish. Not a bad thing. I think people talk about that when they crank a non-master volume, don't they? They say after about 5 or 6 quite often it's not getting any louder, it's just getting a bit more squishy.
That's quite... I can hear a bit of Satriani in that kind of sound, if you do that kind of those lovely leaping sounds that he has.
If I just put that drive up again.
Yeah.
Not quite loud enough to go for that, but I just couldn't resist.
No, but again, you know, you've whacked that up. I mean,
that's quite distorted. I mean, it's quite an old school kind of...
Very much.
But as you come back to about 7 or something, it all tightens up again. I remember reading an article with Neil Young's tech, where they talked about his amp. He would use that Les Paul through the little Fender. Is it Fender Deluxe? I'm not sure. And there were certain settings, and they'd say, look, when you come back to about 7 or 8, then the chunk comes back, but you go above it and it's you know, not basically getting that.
But isn't it such a common mistake with some guitarists? You want more, so you put the gain up, you get less. If you think of some of the most powerful guitar sounds in recorded history, like Van Halen, it wasn't that distorted.
No, surprisingly.
It was kind of loud and clean, and the amp's working its guts out. The same with Townsend. It was never that dirty, but lots of guitarists think, oh yeah, it's Townsend, I better put all the gain on.
Right, then this has got to be heavy. Yeah,
go somewhere else.
And I've found that sometimes playing through, I know the sort of times that I've had the chance to play through something like an older Marshall JMP or something like that, the compression and the sort of sustain you get through just being in the room with something that volume.
Absolutely.
You're getting sustain and feedback, and it's hardly dirty at all, really. And
no, I mean, in fact, I did an album many years ago, and I had to play some Fleetwood Mac stuff. And in the studio, I didn't have to take an amp, they had an old 50 watt Plexi amp and cab, and I had it on 10, Strat, neck pickup, play it lightly, it's still clean. It's not dirty. It's like with these amps, you know, the amount of attack you give the pick makes a huge amount of difference to the sound you get from the amp, doesn't it?
Very touch sensitive and responsive to the volume control. Sorry, that's me miming using my volume control, and I don't need to because it's here.
But interestingly, if I go back to my... In fact, I'm on the drive channel, but if you turn the guitar down, I've got the guitar about, there's 10, I've got, say, 4. See, I might be tempted to use that kind of sound as my clean sound. Yeah. Because I like a clean sound with a bit of hair on it. Me too.
It's
really
very
nice.
Much so,
it's like people often use those, like a boost pedal on all the time. Yeah. Because it just adds a bit of life to it. Not that these need life, but that is a similar idea.
It's a sort of
that.
compression type thing, and an absolutely clean sound to me can often sound spiky, not on its own necessarily, but in a mix or in a band.
It's like that 80s rhythm sound they used on the rock, the kind of yacht rock stuff, isn't it?
Yacht rock,
very,
I love
very
that.
ultra clean. But you know.
Something about the frequencies, the way that it's not squishing, but I don't know, something's happening.
It's doing something, definitely. And I've got, that's with the tone control slightly backed off there, if I open it out. That's quite bright, but I often tame a telly, excuse the noise again, we're so close to the amps. It's not the amp's fault, it's single coil pickups next to a great big transformer. So I mean, they look great as well. I mean, going back to you open the box and what do you see? You see a really nice looking amp. They're great in the blue because as soon as you see pretty much a blue amp with a kind of cane type grill, you think Laney Lionheart. It's
and I like the kind of harking back the old logo. And the colour of the basket weave kind of cloth on the front.
It's really attractive, and the white piping. It's a very nice look, indeed. And this, I mean, it's not light, is it?
No,
but it's a good size to pick up and chuck in the back of the car.
But it's not intimidating. Yeah, no. I mean, there are some amps that you love them and everything, but it's just you take a deep breath and question your life choices.
I had to get rid of it because I'm becoming an old man, and I lift a 75-pound amp into the back of your car. It becomes a bit dangerous. But tell you what we love about these, and it's the tilt back. System. It's really cool, really simple and really clever.
Incredibly useful as well.
You see at the front of the amps, there's a kind of a steel rail kind of thing. That flips back underneath, so it's lying back under the bottom of the amp. And then you just pull it out and you've got your tilt. Back in the old days, lots of amps had that all automatically on the sides ones,
of a twin or whatever,
but I'd say a nicer, a simpler...
Yes, it's sort of elegant solution, isn't it? I like that kind of thing.
It's lovely. Yeah. It's lovely. It's very nice. The panel is kind of brushed steel and brushed steel vents as well.
Well,
lovely leather handle.
Kept it simple as well, haven't they? Like you said earlier. I mean, there's a low input and a high input. I'm in the high. I don't know about you.
I'm in the high. I tend to always go in the high.
I do tend to default to that because I don't really use guitars with like super powerful pickups or anything like that. No. And there are a kind of range of options on the back, and we had a little look at the back, and the head and the combo are identical, apart from the fact that you've got the different speaker possibilities here. You can go for different impedances and
you
stack
might
up different
ones. Two cabs perhaps.
And there's an effects loop which is switchable to sort of line level, instrument level, or bypass completely, which is quite nice. You take it out. And at the far end, you've got the foot switch. Now, Laney do make and market their own foot switches. You don't get one with the amp, but they do some quite nice ones, and you can use a generic aftermarket one, and they're kind enough to explain that it's a sort of tip is, I think, the gain channel on the sleeve is. I might have that the wrong way round, but you get the idea. They tell you which way round it is.
Yeah, I'll just go through the controls on the front. Here you've got standby and run, which is standby and on. Tone control, reverb, master reverb control. Get back to that in a minute. Treble, middle, bass. So you've got your 3-band EQ, your drive channel on and off, drive volume, drive amount of drive. That's the drive gain. The bright on and off, and your clean volume. So you can balance the volume tone against your lead tone. If you want. The reverb is really nice. We thought it might be a spring reverb, but it's not. At about halfway, it's about 5. I'll take it off. So if you. I'll put it onto 10. See where it goes. It never gets too flabby, does it?
Yeah, I like that. I mean,
Yeah.
the way that the simplicity of having a spring reverb I like, but of course you get the noise issues and everything. And if you're on a flexible stage with a heavy kick drum, then it sounds like
you have had it. You've obviously had it as well. Yeah. I mean, and it doesn't go mad. It doesn't go Larry. It just doesn't go to unusable sounds, which some do.
See, though, if you wanted, you could just have the foot switch on there and have it set for crazy reverb as a real pronounced, and then just don't have it on the rest of the time.
Well, I
probably
used
what I
to
would
see
do.
a band for the Hamsters.
Oh yeah,
Barry Marten. You used to sometimes you'd set it on this mad thing, and you do one high bend, on goes the reverb. This amazing sound. Then off again.
Yeah.
I tend to on a combo with reverb. I tend to just have it on as a dribble.
Right.
At 3 pretty much all the time.
Yeah.
Then if I want more, I'll have a reverb pedal or something.
Right.
Usually, although actually at the moment I don't have a reverb pedal on my board. But yeah, I mean, what Laney have done with these is give you a relatively simple amp with everything that you can want on it. There's an effects loop if you want to put your echoes and your choruses and your flanges in the back, into the loop. So they're not getting fussed up by amp distortion.
I found out the hard way about that. Yeah,
it's awful. I didn't know what it was when I first got my first high gain amp. I put it was an analog delay into it, and it sounded awful in the
sounds
front.
broken,
didn't have
doesn't it?
Didn't have a loop switch either. You get this awful sound. I suddenly realised, actually, so so that's really nice. But it's a simple amp, and very little is virtually nothing's extreme. I've got a telly which is quite bright anyway. They are as a beast, aren't they?
Yeah.
So you can get it to be a bit too bright, but I usually tame the telly anyway. I mean, your sounds a lovely big humbucking clang it's got, hasn't it?
Yeah, I've got my reverb on about 6 there, but just to... Just take the bright off, sorry. I know that we're not talking about that, but... Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Just pleasing. It's just got that, the kind of, that's good.
Should we play something?
Yeah, we haven't.
Okay,
have
we haven't played anything yet, no. Well, I suppose it's about time we wrapped up. I mean, the great thing about simple amps like this, there's plenty on them, but they are essentially simple amps that anybody, I mean, you know, we sussed them out in minutes, didn't we?
Oh, yeah.
There's nothing you need to learn.
No,
about
it's a 2-channel, so I suppose it's not as simple as like a single channel, but it's just got the well-chosen bright switch, nicely voiced EQs.
Yeah. Obviously, we deliberately had a single coil guitar and a humbucking guitar because the amps are essentially the same. Okay, Richard's with a 212s is going to kick out more in the room volume than this, and this might be a more focused thing on a stage.
I like the idea that you could stand. Well, we're behind the amps, you know, when we're filming these quite often. And what I like is I was getting a really good picture over all of your sound.
Because I'm getting a bit out of the open cab here, whereas Richard's not because it's a closed back. So
you thought you were too loud, and you weren't.
I thought
it's just that mine was firing the sound out.
So I think between the 2 guitars and the 2 amps, I think we've shown you pretty much what these amps can do. They are really, really likeable amps.
I mean, imagine integrating it with foot switch and a small pedal setup.
Yeah.
You know, what people call the 4-cable method, isn't it now?
Yeah, that's right,
But yeah, a few effects in the loop. You could play any sort of gig, I think.
You literally could. I mean, that demands more of you, more space in your car, more blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
That, for me, would be perfect. You know, pick it up. It's not a totally light beast, but it's not as heavy as, say, it would be if it were a 2x12.
Yeah, absolutely. Combo. I mean, if you had to rely more on backline, I suppose, and you weren't necessarily mic, then maybe that's the thing to fire it out further, isn't it? But on any other kind of setup where you're mic'd,
it'd be fine. I mean, and you know, 20 valve watts is a lovely volume for a pub gig. I mean, especially that with the 2x12, that wouldn't have any problem next to a drum and a bass player. You wouldn't really need any more than that. And you know, as Richard says, like a small pedal board or even a big pedal, you know, if you're in a top 40 band and you need every sound under the sun, these would provide a great backdrop.
Well, and it's not one of those token effects loops. It's got the switchable levels. You can trim that and make it work.
And we love the look. They look great, and everything about them. You know, they've got metal corners, not plastic ones that you knock off at the slightest touch or something. Everything is very, very sturdily put together. They're English amps, unashamedly English amps. And Laney's been around a long time. I mean, Laney's been around longer than most. There's very few British amp companies that have been around longer than Laney. And they've got a serious history.
I must say, I mean, it was a few years ago that I played through. They had the heads, didn't they? It might have been a V100 or something like. Forgive me if that's not quite what it was, but they were black vinyl and a very shiny chrome grille and white chicken head knobs. And I turned up to a rehearsal room off Denmark Street actually, and it obviously had a pretty hard life. This thing, it sounded great though. It really made me think seriously about sort of getting on the phone and seeing what I could blag, which ultimately never came to anything.
I actually did a thing for Laney myself, and Roger Newell sadly recently departed, and our drummer, we did a trio gig. Actually, I think it was for the launch of these amps. We did it up at the factory. We did it in the warehouse. Right. And we played all this kind of. We tried to do like Brummy stuff, you know, because it's Birmingham, sort of Birmingham-ish, Midlands.
Well, yeah, big music.
Midlands company. City, and we did like Move songs and stuff like that. And and Tony Iommi turned up. I think luckily he turned up after we'd finished. but that was very good fun. And they just sound like proper amps. Anything you could want. Really lovely.
And I like the fact that there's something about the look of these seems to reclaim the heritage a bit, because there was an era and they were fine amps and everything, but there was the era when they did a lot of sort of solid state with a lot of pull and push buttons. And actually, you know, some of them sounded really great, but for whatever reason, they didn't really make it in the marketplace.
Well, I mean, a lot of companies went from having that nice little logo like that to we've got to have a, you know, that other famous Californian company, not the F1, the other one, used to have a little logo a bit like the Laney one here, and then they did this great big uppercase italic one. And they've kind of gone back to it, because I think we like a bit of heritage now, don't we? And what a lot of amp manufacturers have realised, you don't actually need all the stuff, because everything's pedals now. People want a great pedal platform, don't they?
Yeah, that's true actually, and these do tread a very good line, because the way I'm not doing it now, but for years, decades in fact, I would run a 2-channel amp and a drive pedal that you could use into the clean channel if you wanted to sort of just slightly, a mild overdrive. I mean, I always get slightly annoyed by that phrase now, but it was just a slight overdrive. But you could also combine that overdrive with the dirty channel, so you'd have effectively a 3-channel amp. If you could tap dance.
Well, that's what you do get, because you've got the switchable. Okay, the foot switch doesn't come with it, but with the foot switch clean, dirty, or clean grunt, you can set that for your crunch sound. And have your dirty sound from your amp,
which I think would work really well, because when the drive is lower, it stays chunky. You know, I mean, and if you're in the studio, and that's one of the things that I meant to say earlier and didn't, is that obviously, you know, you can set the controls pretty much anywhere and get a good sound. Well, I quite like the idea. I've had amps in the past where I've been in the rehearsal room and really carefully set it so that it sounds okay, and it's to my ears at the time the only way it really sounded any good. And then you get to a studio and someone's saying, oh, it's coming through a bit bright, and you think, oh no, what am I going to do? Because it's just going to upset the whole balance with the tone control and just the way the EQ section works generally. It's just no drama. Yeah, all right.
Exactly.
Let's try that.
And if you were in a blues band, you don't even need a pedal.
No.
You can plug your guitar, you know, a simplest guitar in the world, into a straightforward 2-channel combo in a blues club would be fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely would.
Yeah, I'd love that. I love the simplicity of guitar, cable, amp.
It makes you play differently as well.
It does, definitely. It does. No, we've thoroughly enjoyed them. Yes. I mean, we should get on to price, actually, shouldn't we?
Yeah.
We were quite surprised at where they hit price-wise. This one, the combo, 1x12 combo, is just under the £1,000 UK price. That's what's on the street at the moment. And what's your one, Rich?
Well, we had a look around and we found that the head was 667, neighbour of the beast.
Indeed.
And the cab, as a standalone, was 469. So my maths was never brilliant, but that's under 1,200, isn't it? That's 1,100 and something.
And that's a lot of stuff for your money. I mean, that really is great value. And there's nothing about this these amps that sounds anything like, I don't know what the word would be. It's certainly not budget, because
no, it doesn't sound like compromises have been made at all.
When you think what the boutique things that you can find that are very much in these ballparks, double it straight away. And why wouldn't you want a bit of great British heritage? Yeah,
and that's a good cab. That really fires the sound out, and it's really solidly built. That's,
I mean, they are. We were just looking that it's beautifully the grill's inlaid into the cabinet, and beautifully the Tolex is beautifully put around them, and even the bottom part of the grill, not the grill, the baffle on the back. Usually the name tag of the thing is just tacked on with a couple of tacks. This is inlaid into the panel.
Wow, and it's they don't need to do that, but they have bothered. Yeah,
and it's just the piping's beautifully done. It's very attractive. They've really thought about it and come up with we both think, a really, really nice product.
It's a great product. I mean, there's people's personal taste and everything, but I would be very surprised if you got a whole bunch of guitarists to come in here and all have a go on it. Then I would have thought that 90% of them are going to say, I can get my sound out of that.
Yeah, and they've got that EL84 kind of sound that's got the trebles a bit sweet, and it's nice, and they're warm sounding. They're friendly sounding amps in a way,
but focused.
Definitely,
because I know that's something that we noticed. You do a bit of palm muting or whatever. We were jamming around with one of the pieces, weren't we? And you can get a bit of chunk from it.
I mean, we just really, really like them, and I think, as you say, anybody plugging into these is going to get a great sound out of them.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think that there's going to be a lot of players out there that wouldn't agree with that if they plugged in and had a go. Yeah.
So, go to your nearest Laney dealer. Spend half an hour with one of these, and I think you'll probably come away with one.
Yeah.
and we'll see you next time. Hope you've enjoyed it. Take care.
See you next time.